Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third-party review. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the absolutely massive offering from DX9. This is their biggest venture yet. It is of course their Gabriel, which is their interpretation of a masterpiece style Omega Supreme, and oh my goodness, this thing is ruddy massive. Let's start things rolling with a scale comparison. Here he is alongside Terminus Giganticus from Fans Toys, and we also have Toy World's Constructor, aka their Devastator, and our young Gabriel is hanging on to a masterpiece Megatron. These are ridiculously huge. Right now there's been a lot of speculation as to whether one is bigger than the other or one is drastically bigger than the other. At the moment I think Fans Toys Giganticus, from base of his feet to the tip of his head, we're looking at around 57 centimetres, that's about 22.5, 23 inches. Now that's to the top of his head, not the top of his wings. Gabriel, from the base of his feet to the top of his head, again we're looking around 57 centimetres, about 22.5 inches. There's literally nothing between the two. That's with Fans Toys Terminus Giganticus trying to stand up straight. He's leaning against the backdrop there, but he's as straight as I can get him, and Gabriel is standing to attention. Obviously the biggest difference with these two is those wings. If we include those wings, then yes, Fans Toys interpretation is definitely the bigger of the two, but just by looking eye to eye, I think that DX9 has it just slightly, because they have that added neck piece underneath the head, which just raises it up and beyond Fans Toys. Now the biggest difference we have between the two is the colour. DX9 have gone for that much cleaner, kind of more vibrant look, whereas Fans Toys have got that kind of nitty gritty dark wash over Omega, giving it more of a gold and almost a pearlescent grey. As you can see from looking at the torsos, Fans Toys have gone for that wider torso. Personally though, I do prefer the proportions of the DX9 model, although it does appear to be slightly more simplified. We don't get the option for the red crotch with the DX9, but both are very true to the original figure. Aesthetic wise, the claws both look very similar indeed. Fans Toys have gone again for the wider, bulkier look, whereas DX9 have gone for that kind of sleeker image. Personally, looking at some of the renders from the G1 animation, Omega changed so much in pretty much every single episode, but I'll include a few images just over here somewhere. Basically, I think that DX9 have got the arms slightly truer, they're thinner, and especially the rocket tip. People have been complaining that DX9's is very narrow indeed, but that is what we got with the cartoon, whereas Fans Toys is very similar indeed to what we got with the original G1 toy. Having a look at both of them side on, DX9 have gone for a bulkier torso, whereas Fans Toys have gone for that sleek design, but unfortunately their sleek design and that heavy backpack does mean that he leans incredibly far backwards, whereas Gabriel will stand extremely straight, and those hip joints are absolutely incredible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Fans Toys as much as the next man, but that is proper wobbly. Right, let's take a look at the legs. Again, Gabriel has that more animation style with the sleeker design, less detailing incorporated on there, and Fans Toys have gone for the toy kind of shape, feel and look, and just and stand up. Right there. And just taking a look at those backpack pieces, again Gabriel is nice, clean and simplified somewhat, and Terminus Giganticus has got those nice big chunky realistic details. Right now we've got those pleasantries out of the way, let's actually take a look at Gabriel himself. First thing that I really love about this figure is this head. We have an articulated neck, which is a must for Omega because he can actually look up and down, and we can go left and right. Unfortunately, there's no side-to-side quizzical tilting, but man, that looks so good. Now, with regards to accessories, this guy is the sample product which was sent to Robot Kingdom, and he was shipped to me in the robot mode for me to do comparisons. What we get is a sheet with stickers on, so you can pick and choose whether you want him detailed up. There's quite a few on there, just trying to get them all in camera without the exposure. And we're meant to get an alternative face. This is meant to have the closed mouth, but I seem to have had two of the same faces shipped. There is an alternative face. It's much more in keeping with what we get with the Fans Toys one. It's got that kind of stern expression on it, and this one's more of the open mouth, but yeah, joys of pre-production samples. The idea behind this face is to flip this tab up. If you can't get your nails under the screen, just twist it slightly, and it allows the screen to be lifted up fully, and you can just gain access to the face to switch it out. Face just slides on out, and we've got the kind of ghost-like face there, and they're just tabbed in with the 4 pegs. There we go, that's the face plugged back in. Or you can turn it all the way round, and that's what we're going to have displayed in our vehicle mode. Love that. That's a full circuitry section there with a little tiny computer. Almost looks like a grey version of Teletran 1 sitting in there, and then we can just place this peg back down on top of the head. Now the joints on Gabriel are some of the best I've seen on a figure from DX9 in a long time. I mean, these are extremely tight. If I very, very good joints, especially those elbow ones. They are incredible. There's lots of amazing ratchets on there, and wriggling and moving all of these. None of these chest pieces come untabbed. Nothing moves. Everything stays where it's meant to stay. Super tight ratchets, but not to the extent where I'm worried something's going to break. Head can also push down and lock into place, so it's got that much more G1 toy look to it. So lift that back up. I don't like it being locked down. I like the ability for him to be able to look downwards and upwards. The shoulders got at great range, but we've also got the addition of the articulated shoulder pads, which allow for the arms. Oh, if I can bend these ratchets all the way up to there. That's a pretty nice range, I think. But it's nice that the shoulder pads do indeed travel with the arms. Bring those around. We do get LED functions on both the claw and the nozzle. Just press this button here. There's a nice bright LED light, and the same function goes for the nozzle. Again, just press the tab and we get a nice bright LED. Now another good point, as you saw with him holding Megatron, are the claws. Again, are on ridiculously nice tight metal ratchets, so he can grip his Decepticons in any way, shape and form. Astrotrain being a prime example. A lovely waist swivel. Unfortunately, no abdominal crunch though. Right, I'm going to have to lay him down to show you the leg articulation. I physically can't hold him with my back being the way it is, missing 2 discs. Right, if we can move these hip skirts out of the way, because they do hinder the flow of movement, we can move the legs all the way forwards and they go all the way back. Again, we've got a hip skirt at the rear. We can come all the way out to the side. There is an upper thigh rotation in there as well. Coming down to the knees, they do bend incredibly well, and we have lovely pistons on the inside there to get rid of any unsightly gaps. We have hinge in there, very much the same as what Fans Toys gave us, but these pistons really do make the world of difference, adding some structure to those joints. Oh, what an incredibly tight joint. Coming down to the feet can come outwards and extend, and they just pivot left and right. You could give him a good couple of extra inches on there. I mean, a couple of inches does make all of the difference, but it's a very natural looking foot. It's just designed to give him a lot more stability when posing him wide stance. I don't have a grassy knoll for them both to sit on, but you get the idea. He is a very nicely articulated figure. I've already showed him off with Toy World's Constructor. Here he is with the KO Gravity Builder Mixmaster, just to give you an idea of how they scale in their robot modes. Personally, I actually think that works. I was expecting those to be a little bit too short. Constructor is nigh on a perfect scale for this guy, and the size and bulk of both of those figures really does remind me of the cartoon. But yeah, this is how the Gravity Builder set would work with him, and it does exactly that. It does work. Gotta love it, aren't you? You're trying to weigh a figure like you always do, and your scales go doolally. They're going up and down and up and down. He's heavy, okay? He is heavy. He's about 5.5 kilos, I think. But for some reason, my scales are showing complete nonsense. They showed like a kilo a minute ago. I think I might need new scales. Now, as articulated as this guy is, he's still difficult to pose, but that's only because of how heavy he is. 98% of the time I am in a wheelchair and I have to take things quite easy. I suffer from chronic pain, and this guy is super heavy to haul around. But when you have to do this one more time, when the Wei Zhang version of Omega Supreme turns up, then I can just put things back in the display cabinet. This backpack section just tabs in underneath. You want to pull that, lift this up, and as you can see, we now have access to those wings. They just tabbed in. We just want to give them a little wiggle and we can untab those. Now the wings are a nice chunk of plastic. They just extend outwards. I can't see a way of those attaching to Omega in the full capacity because the backpack does get in the way slightly. There may be a way of doing it. I may just be overlooking it, but yep, they're very solid pieces of track, and we have these small adapters which fold in. They're what tag these two pieces together. They just fold in for base mode. I come around to these arms, and if you look, there is a gap just here. This is where they slide into that joint, and it's actually spring loaded. It springs in nicely. This is all going to push on the inside there, but when it's in rocket mode and you want to gain access to this, pull this tab down, which is part of the rocket system, and you can basically push that up from the inside. That's how you gain access, and that's also where we have the ramp to get in and out of the rocket. Let's just push that back, slide that in, and close that off firmly. Make sure the joints are completely straight because they are so tight that once you get them off the Omega arm, you will really struggle to straighten up this joint. Same principle as before. And if you have no nails, gaining access to it is not the most pleasant of experiences. There we go. Again, this can come out and down, and this is how you gain access to those joints when we need them for the rocket ship. Again, we have a ramp that can come down. Let's push that up, in, and slide that back in. And much like you would expect, two corresponding tabs, and a tab here and a tab there, they are going to click and firmly plug in together. We can then untab these amazingly tight sections on those arms. This point here comes unplugged from the side. We then pull the back away from the front. That then allows us to pull this whole unit outwards, put this to one side, and you can actually keep the wings on up until this point because you have access to them by doing this. And I suppose you could always have the wings fully on like that. I just don't think it looks very balanced. You can't have them all the way up to the top because they bash, and if you have them here, they're much longer at the base than what they are at the top. Right, now with this piece upwards, we have to bend these inwards, and they're going to peg on the inside there. Now please excuse me if anything I do here is slightly incorrect. It's because I don't get instructions with these, so it's more guesswork than anything else. Now this piece naturally wants to fall forwards. What you need to do now is we want to just make sure that this is straight. This is on a nice rocking hinge. This is going to rock all the way over and just tab back onto itself. Now again, this probably could all be done with Omega standing up because he's very well balanced, but my back is not. We want to just push these panels up, and this gives me huge nostalgia feels. The legs naturally want to split. Let's just move this one out so we've got some room to play. All of this hinge here is on a ratchet. We can turn it around, and each one of these sections has a ramp piece folded up and on the inside. You want to unfold all of that funky mechanism, and the same goes with the foot. The foot has a tray underneath. Come to the toe. The toe is going to rotate under. This piece of the leg is going to go flat. This is going to rotate around, and then this is all going to fold backwards on itself, and then this piece here is going to come down, and that's going to tab in on the underside there to lock that into place, and this is going to sit over at the front. They hook over one another, so we just unhook them and open those up to form support pegs. Then using that same interlocking system, they just push down on their opposite, and slowly but surely it's beginning to look a lot like Omega. Now these wing sections have fold out panels on the underside. We can fold those all the way up and then bring those down, and then the track can just come in over and peg in firmly on top. We can pull this tab from the inside out, just push from the inside and allows that to come out. These are going to act as kind of walkways. There's a tab here that just tabs in, and I'm not gonna lie, these are incredibly hard to push in. It's a very peculiar angle, and as you can see here, I do actually have a little bit of a dent on my hip skirts. That arrived like that. It was damaged in the shipping, but I believe it's probably because somebody's tried to force the legs upwards in robot mode without moving the hip skirts out of the way first. I could probably get a hairdryer or a heat gun or something on that, and I'll just go back to normal. But that's something you all just need to be aware of. If you want to move the legs out to the sides firmly, then bear in mind these hip skirts are a very large fixed unit. You need to move those first. Now to transform our Omega tank, you want to lift this piece up. You want to untab these. These are very firmly situated. The head needs to be pushed down and rotated all the way around. We can then bring these arm pieces out on both sides. This section rocks upwards. These panels here actually fold out and out again. Now the front of mine was incredibly stiff to get out, but once it's out, we can then fold these pieces back over and the gun comes down, and that's going to tab in to the underside of this piece, securing that into place. So you have to do that in the right order. You have to tab this piece in first, then move this, then bring this up and over, and then bring this panel down, and that's just going to tab and lock into place. We can bring these cannons all the way forward. He says they are again incredibly stiff, and we can bring the tank head forwards like this. And here it is in all of its glory. This thing is incredibly big. It's like having a Scalextrics on my review bench. I don't have enough background. It's just humongous. I wish I had the room to display one of these in their base mode. The tank looks absolutely superb. As you can see, we do have articulation on those cannons. They can move up and down, as too can the Omega cannon. All right, now let's try and take you around a guided tour of the mighty Omega Supreme. The track is lovely. We do have the ramp going up into the rocket. There's actually room there to get the secondary ramp up as well, but that goes upwards. I don't know if that's a slight design flaw there. Very, very nice. And obviously we get those two entrance chutes at the front, and coming around to the tank, it's nice. Yes, we get these faux tracks, but the wheels do roll quite freely. Everything pegs in extremely solidly, and because we have those tracks, it does sort of roll. It's not brilliant, but I mean, it is absolutely massive. Lovely range, up and down. Of course, like I said, these can move up and down as well. And I mean, size-wise, I know these aren't designed to go with each other, but it is absolutely humongous. I mean, seriously, this thing is massive. I do love that control center in the back of the head. That is a perfect size for the recent influx of Diaclone pilots and the headmasters. The Diaclone, especially, this being based upon that Diaclone and grandstand converter mold. I'd love to see one of these done up as Omegatron from grandstand converters. That'd be fantastic. But I mean, you can have him in there and this still comes down and closes off, so he is actually piloting the Omega tank, which I think is ruddy marvellous. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel from DX9. If I had to pick between the two, sell one, keep one, I think I would keep the DX9 just because of that stability and how well everything holds together. Fans Toys done an amazing job with their Omega Supreme, and it's always easier to improve on somebody else's mold, take ideas from it, etc. when you're second or third out. But personally, I do love how this product feels. It is by far the best product DX9 have done. It feels amazing. It is one of the most professional finishes I've ever felt on a toy. It is definitely high end there. You're getting a lot of plastic and die cast for your buck. Remember to be careful when transforming. Just make sure you don't get those hip skirts in the way, because they will bend. I don't imagine anything's going to change between now and the release date. They always say, oh, this might change, that might change, and that's the message that we get passed on. But very rarely, when we get a product this late on, does it change. If they say we're going to fix this joint, that joint, very rarely do they do it. It's so late in production, I honestly can't see companies doing that. This is done to a final standard, and if you've ordered this, you're not going to be disappointed. If you've got Fans Toys version, do you need this? No, probably not. If you're happy with what you have, they scale pretty much exactly the same. I just prefer how this one looks. Fans Toys is more realistic, I guess, but this one, I think, with the smooth panels and the matte colours, does look more like its animation counterpart. I've just realised I haven't folded down the back of the tank. This entire video, nobody told me that I hadn't plugged in the back of the tank. There was me waffling on about buying one, and nobody had informed me that the tank wasn't completely transformed. But yes, there we go. Omega Supreme DX9. If you want one, buy one. If you don't, don't. I will have the Weijang version en route. Unfortunately, I don't have a date for that yet, but of course I will do a full comparison when we get that in as well. And I do know that the Weijang does have a working motor in their Omega tank. Until next time, from myself and Gabriel, thanks for watching, goodbye.